and from an earthly perspective, about 20 micrometers of mass made of atoms. So what I mean by awareness, just be yourself in your thoughts, actions, and every aspect of your life. That would be more than enough. Because it's not enough to just train your awareness to the maximum. At some point, you have to get into action and be aware. But without this first step, this observer of consciousness into consciousness, unfortunately, nothing will happen in this experiment that you call your life. Otherwise, 95% of the unconscious time, the ego shadow will subconsciously guide you, and the remaining 5% of conscious time, you've got to use your crippled consciousness with your underdeveloped manifestation tools. So you need to make a fully conscious decision to change something, then bring an unwavering will to execute it with full awareness. I mean, from your entire body and soul, from full consciousness and in 20 microns of mass. Because in this case, it's to be taken literally, for we are seen as mere mass from an earthly point of view, not pure consciousness. But let me provide another example of the ego's hostile takeover by showing you what I mean by being unconsciously occupied and subconsciously guided. Say you were supposed to give a speech in front of 100 people over the weekend. You can already feel a lump stuck in your throat. You become nervous, your hands start to sweat and shake, a flight instinct kicks in and you no longer want to go there. I can tell you all that it is driven by the ego. If your reactions stay within this spectrum of fear, you are definitely unconsciously occupied with these ego topics. Your mind lives in constant worry. Your body shows panic, physical reactions, or your personality changes out of concern to protect itself. Then these are all manifestations of your tools, which we either perceive in our consciousness and then be conscious with these tools through which we can manifest our true self. Or we let our ego unconsciously, subconsciously guide and lead us from the manifestations of the tools. But this will not be in your interest, because 95% of the time, you let yourself be guided by these negative emotions experiences. What if I blabber or make a monkey of myself or something embarrassingly happens? Until this weekend when you can give your talk, every hour feels like a week and each day feels like a month. A constant torture, truly hell. Only to realize that in the last conscious 5% of the time you consciously used your tools, it wasn't as bad as you expected. But what now? When you know that you are unconsciously occupied and led subconsciously, first of all, don't despair and freak out. This plays into the hands of the ego. I use 3 methods to deal with such situations. 1. Walk away. Avoid the situation. If you're still at the very beginning, it's a good chance to protect your energy so it doesn't get consumed by the ego. Since many things can still throw you out of balance, you should learn to know and protect yourself better first. Look at which points you might need more energy and time at the moment, and then consciously focus on these topics. If it doesn't work immediately, don't see it as a defeat if you withdraw. By doing so, you'd be adding value to it again and feeding the ego. Accept departure as the necessary next step and try again at another time, but without pressure this time. Step by step. And the first step is simply to learn how to say no. 2. Endure. If over time you possess enough energy reserves, better understand and protect yourself, you can then begin to observe the ego in yourself and others. How does it operate? What happens within me when that happens? Or what does this trigger it? As soon as you shift out of this observer awareness position and start responding with subconscious emotions and experiences, or let yourself be led by unconscious thoughts, stop immediately and remind yourself that you're trying to be conscientious. Look at what's currently going on inside you. What's happening in this moment needs to be endured, understood, and learned from. Where does it pinch? Where does it hurt? Is it a pulling, or rather a pressing of the pain? What hurt you? How and why could it hurt you so much? Or why did you just scream angrily when no one else was screaming? Could it be that your ego was screaming and not you? Observe yourself very closely in these unconscious moments. If your conscious being hates quarrels, anger, or rage, how can it be that you act against your conscious being? Maybe because these unconscious actions don't come from your conscious being at all. And last but not least, the supreme dis. Three, letting go. Probably the simplest tip that is the hardest to implement. Letting go means no longer making your conscious awareness dependent on your true self, your material self, or your physical and non-physical actions. But that's because you're probably still relatively early on with these topics. You've only just learned how to understand these energies and also how to train your consciousness through consciousness. It will be hard to let go of all these feelings and experiences. You just want to consciously understand them, learn them, and change the old evaluated experiences. Still, it would be possible to let go of everything immediately. That would be the awakening of your higher self. But unfortunately, the subject of awakening is a bit more complex than I can present right now. So if you haven't even consciously learned to set boundaries and say no by then, you'll give even if you don't have it. You'll stay longer than is good for you, and you'll prioritize people and objects that aren't really that important. And this is where willpower has to meet consciousness to learn when to stop. But let's look at an example of letting go using our video. Letting go means that when a vibration hits you, you are so consciously detached that evaluated experiences can no longer interfere with your conscious being. You let them go and they let you go. In that moment, you have your full consciousness, no separation, no occupation or external control over you. In this state, you have absolute clarity because the duality of right, wrong, good, evil, light, dark no longer applies. Because in that conscious moment, you only walk with your true self and you can be aware of anything you want. And consciousness doesn't want to kill anyone, hurt anyone, lie, cheat, manipulate, take advantage of, or condemn anyone. It just wants to be aware. I am. So now understand, this path will be difficult and rocky. You have to experience a lot of suffering before you see any improvement. It might be helpful to understand karma here. Karma could be described as the emptiness or void in your life. But to be more specific, karma is the current state that you're in because of your past actions. Here, by previous actions, we mean all the actions in your entire life story. And here's the first lesson. Whatever you send out into the universe, whether you're aware of it or not, it always comes back to you eventually. So, because karma acts like an emptiness, your life isn't predetermined. That's because the only way karma can put a value on your actions is if you take action in the world. So the future is predetermined by your conscious and unconscious actions today. However, karma always keeps an eye on your development of your continuity and includes it in the evaluation. Therefore, it's not possible to simply interrupt this continuity of karma, get out of it, or take over or start up in a different place. So there will be a specific reason within your karmic continuity. Why you were born right now and here in this time. You just have to consciously search for it. Then you'll find your personal reason. Through this karmic continuity, your present consciousness has the opportunity to enter into a new, more conscious development in your conscious mind here and now through the teachings of karma that you are currently in. Initially, karma is generous with you and your mistakes. If you do something wrong, the lesson that follows will at first be harmless and bearable, so that a conscious comprehension arises within you that life isn't self-created, but you are a crucial, authoritative part of it, observer consciousness. Then, through your consciousness and your conscious being, you are slowly introduced to your karmic faults. The next step is now completely up to you. You need to consciously comprehend the error, then accept it, and ultimately learn from that error. You have to consciously take responsibility for yourself and your actions. But if you dismiss the well-intentioned advice, karma will make itself heard over time, and the formerly harmless lessons gradually turn into powerful knocks that bring you down. And these situations will keep repeating until you've consciously learned from them that you no longer want to continue. And change your behavior. For you must know that karma might not always deliver right away, but it never forgets. And don't think that you'll get anywhere with trickery and lies with karma. If your conscious being, your consciousness and subconscious behavior don't align with your thoughts, actions, and vibrations, you won't achieve change. Karma can also be seen as a consequence of your free choice and its effects. Because through them, you're always free to choose the next step in your continuity. But in the end, you also have to live with these karmic consequences. Therefore, listen to your gut feeling, your conscience, or your heart when it comes to these topics. They know what to do. Once you do that, things in your life will change. I hope you've come to realize that most of you still have a hefty karma bill to pay due to your continuity. So for the third time, be aware that you're set to face tough weeks, months, years of decline. There will be moments when you'll want to throw in the towel, days of despair and lack of drive. But the motivation here is the knowledge that overcoming your ego and duality can gradually set you free from your old karmic bonds. So if you've trudged through this hell, paradise is waiting for you just beyond. The most valuable experiences never come overnight. They require time, commitment, and patience. Because the reward is the result of hard work, energy, and effort. A tip, you're already in hell, so what are you waiting for? Start your journey to paradise. We now possess this universal key to life and ascension. We have finally learned how to use it consciously and correctly, and we even know where the door of consciousness is. Now, let's take a look at what's behind the door. I was very surprised back then when the universal key I made in duality fit into the lock of the door of consciousness that had been inside me my entire life. I turned the key in the keyhole, pulled the door towards me, and a light filled me. It was Jesus Christ. Wow, I can already hear many of you saying, oh no, not another video, or oh, such topics don't interest me at all anyway. Then pause for a moment. This isn't one of those videos. Well, not yet, only from the next chapter. But I would like to invite you to watch the video all the way to the end, or at least this chapter. Or do you want to tell me that your ego has you so tightly under control that it doesn't even want to let you check if it's really true? Because otherwise it could be that it loses the control over your subconscious that it has been building up in you for so long and laboriously, unconsciously. Then maybe my video is really not for you at the moment, although it could help you a lot. But don't worry, Jesus is also waiting for you behind the door. For everyone else, Jesus Christ. But before we talk further about our Lord and Savior, we have a few other topics we should address, such as what God is to me. But let me finally bring consciousness, ego, and duality together in one parable. How they interact with each other, and who influences what and whom, as well as a way to arm oneself against it. Then let's build the foundation of consciousness.